What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today I'm doing some Crystron test hands. So I'm really excited for this one because this is a really interesting synchro based deck that you have to really focus on how you're actually synchro climbing. You have to really think 2 synchro summons ahead while you're playing around with your Crystrons, and has one of the most powerful, impactful link monsters in the entire game, which is Crystron Needle Fiber, actually within the archetype, which is the first time that this card has actually been played in archetype, which is super interesting. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on the screen, become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below because you have some awesome rewards, you guys, like getting your name description for every single video, getting side cards in the mail, or even getting a twist deck profile just like this one, or a test hand alongside it every single month that you are a patron. So without further ado guys, let's get straight on into this. So this is a really interesting deck, like I said, that you kind of have to think 2 synchro summons ahead when you're playing around this deck, where you have to go like a 4 and a 5 and then go the 4 and the 5 into a 9, but you're usually trying to equal 9 in your synchro summons. You also have a really interesting aspect where you can get into the scrap engine, which is super nice, and you play about 8 different ways to foolish burial your monsters upon normal summon, which is really good. I like that ability to have all those foolish burials in your deck. That's really pivotal to help out the deck a lot, to be able to get your monsters into the graveyard like your Txne directly from the deck to the grave to start comboing off, to get your Crytron on your side of the field and then start going from there. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is some of your monsters restrict you into only going for machine synchro monsters, which is good and kind of sucks all at once, because it does lock you out of your 2 link monsters, which is Needle Fiber and your copy of Scrap Wyvern. So you kind of have to watch out for that a little bit. So let's go ahead and do a quick draw test hand and see what we can draw. As long as we draw a copy of a monster that can send something to the graveyard on normal summon, we're totally fine. So we're going to immediately draw into a Starlight Junction, which is really good. Gen X Undyne, we're totally fine now. A copy of Mathematician, we're also really fine now. The Gen X Undyne is going to be better. Another Mathematician, and a copy of Ash Blossom. So this is a really good hand because you can just normal summon out your copy of Gen X Undyne, Foolish Burial monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then add the Gen X controller from your deck to your hand. We didn't draw any bricks, and then the Starlight Junction is really good. I really wish this card would get released as a secret rare. It'd be gorgeous as a secret rare. That's actually the one card I really want to see reprinted as a holo. But basically, this is compulsory evacuation device if you synchro summon during your opponent's turn, which is really good. And then this also sends stuff from deck to graveyard, like your copy of Txne, to be able to start comboing off. So you have a really good opening hand right there. That's not bad at all. That's actually an ideal opening hand. The only thing that could make that better is to open up with maybe a copy of Crystron Impact, so you can go for your golden boy during your opponent's turn, which is really nice. The Quan Golden form. So let's go ahead and do another draw test hand and see what we can actually draw. So we right off the bat get another copy of Gen X Undyne, Rowan, Ash Blossom, Smyger, and a copy of Mathematician. This is really good too, because drawing into the copy of Undyne just gets you all your plays going. The Mathematician's a good backup card, and then your other card that you play is a copy of the Scrap Recycler, because you normal summon out Scrap Recycler or Gen X Undyne, and these are the 2 you want to open. You just play 2 copies of the Mathematician, and as you can see in the deck profile down below. So that's not a bad hand at all. As long as you're drawing into the cards that are just going to send stuff from your deck to the graveyard, you should be totally fine with going off against your opponent. So let's go ahead and see what we can do with this next one. For the last draw test hand, Smyger, Impact, Crytron, Ash Blossom, and a Call by the Grave. This is not quite exactly where we want to go, but you can pull it off because you can use the effect of Smyger while it's on the field to be able to pop something, which is not too bad, pop itself. And then it also has the ability that you can, when it's in the graveyard, you can just banish it and then add from your deck to your hand one of your Crystron spells or traps, which is your Impact. So you can go off with this particular hand. It's not bad to go off with this particular hand, and you can do a lot of stuff. So let's go ahead and actually play out a test hand and see what we can actually do. So go ahead and shuffle this bad boy up and see if we can actually get a really good opening hand. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Scrap Gold, and that's actually one of our 2 garnets in the deck. We don't want to see that. Txne is not bad to see. The Turtle is also not bad to see. Undyne and a Call by the Grave. This is a perfect hand because you have the copy of Call by the Grave to stop a hand trap. You also have the copy of the Scrap Golem in your hand to go off with, and the copy of Txne if your Undyne fails. So we're going to go ahead and normal summon out that Gen X Undyne. The Gen X Undyne is going to trigger sending a copy of Sulfnir to the graveyard, which is usually what you're going to want to send to the graveyard to be able to go off. Once you send your copy of Sulfnir, you're going to have to probably activate that copy of Call by the Grave to stop your opponent from doing their particular shenanigans. Now, I will tell you guys, the board is not going to look insane, because you're going to have a little bit of a setup for your opponent's turn, because it's never, with Crystrons, it's never not your turn. So you're going to look at the board and go, ew, that doesn't look that great, but it really is. So we're going to go ahead and use the effect of Sulfnir in the graveyard to special summon itself back, because all of your Crystrons basically have the ability that if this card is in your hand or your graveyard, you can banish them to trigger an effect. And then also this card has the ability that you can discard a card from your hand and then, or discard to your graveyard one Crystron card, which is going to be our copy of the turtle. We're going to discard the turtle and then special summon back the Sulfnir. And then the Sulfnir is going to pop itself and then special summon a Crystron monster from the deck, which can be a lot of different plays that you can actually get. But since we already have the graveyard set up, we're going to special summon into a copy of our Citreat, which is going to be a really good opening play to go into, because then you can start getting your plays set up for the next turn. Now, what I would probably recommend is to go ahead and link summon, because we didn't lock ourselves into just synchro summoning, and go immediately into a copy of Needle Fiber. Once you go into the Needle Fiber, your Needle Fiber's effect is going to trigger, letting you special summon a monster from your deck, which is going to be our copy of Citreat. Now, yes, that does look weird that we link summon to get it, but that's fine, because what you're trying to do is set up your graveyard with a couple of different monsters to be able to go off, which is really, really good to be able to go there, because you really want to get something in the graveyard or get where you can actually play off to get your copy of Needle Fiber, so you can go into Quandrax, which is really, really good to be able to go off. I like that ability to be able to go off. It helps a lot. You can actually do this a little bit differently, which I will show you guys really quickly. If you didn't summon this card and you had your copy of the Gen X Undyne and the Citreat on your side of the field, you could actually back up a little bit and have the Smyger on your field, or get the Smyger out by popping this card just like you did before. Special summon Smyger, and then once you special summon Smyger, you can pop this Smyger on your side of the field and then immediately summon Citreat. Now you have the Smyger in the graveyard that you can banish to actually get your impact. Banish these two, because you haven't resolved that copy of Smyger yet. And you could leave your field essentially like this. Banish your copy of the Smyger from the graveyard, and then search your deck for a copy of your Crystron Impact. Now, once you search that Crystron Impact, you don't need to link summon at this point. You could actually just pass like this. And then when your opponent goes, you can do something really cool like this, and immediately synchro summon these two together with the copy of your turtle and your copy of Citreat, because the Citreat will special summon during your opponent's main phase or battle phase. It will special summon a monster from the graveyard and then immediately synchro summon using these two cards. So you're going to go ahead and synchro summon during your opponent's turn, because this is during their turn, and go into your copy of Quandrax. Once you summon the copy of Quandrax to your side of the field, you can also, these will be banished. So now we're going to use a really cool combo, and we're going to flip our copy of Impact on our side of the field to special summon back our Citreat. Now, the copy of Quandrax's effect will let us synchro summon during our opponent's turn, and the copy of the card we want to get on our side of the field is during our opponent's setup. What you're going to do is essentially Trishula them on their turn. So you have two tuners right here, which means the requirements, and we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we're going to synchro summon these two together, or these three monsters together, and then we're immediately going to summon out our Golden Quandrax. I just call it Golden Quandrax, or the level 9 monster. And we're going to we're going to banish 3 cards on our opponent's side of the field during our opponent's turn, which is really cool. Yes, it does target, but this card has the ability that if this card is synchro summon, you can target monsters your opponent controls or in their graveyard up to the number of synchro materials used to synchro summon this card, which we use 3 different synchro materials to synchro summon this card, and you banish them. And if this card is synchro summon card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can target one of your banished cards except another copy of itself, and then special summon that back to your side of the field, so it replaces itself as well. A lot of your Crystron extra deck monsters replace themselves, which is really good. So this is during your opponent's turn that you just did this. You go into your next turn, you activate the copy copy of Starlight Junction, and then you can use the effect of your Selfnir in the graveyard to discard a card from your hand, which is going to be your Selfnir, to immediately pop the Selfnir on your side of the field, and then special summon from your deck another Crystron monster, which could be another copy of Smyger. Smyger will then pop itself because all of your Crystron monsters just about share the ability that you can target one face card you control. You cannot special summon from the extra deck except for Machine Synchro monsters and destroy that card and then add to your hand. And if you do, you get to special summon a Crystron tuner. So we're going to pop this card on our side of the field and then special summon another Citrate. It's very one-trick pony where you're going to be able to get another Citrate on your side of the field. At this point, during your opponent's turn, you can go for an FA Dawn Dragster because you're essentially going to shut your opponent down with this card. This is your turn now. You're the third turn of the duel. So you're going to pass to the fourth turn of the duel, and then when it passes to the fourth turn of the duel, it's going to be your opponent's turn. And at the very beginning of their turn, if they have a monster on the field, usually they won't, but when they summon their first monster, you can go, hey, Citrate effect, special summon Selfnir, and your copy of Citrate will synchro summon on your side of the field, and you can summon out a copy of FA Dawn Dragster in defense position. The FA Dawn Dragster will act as a negation for one spell or trap on your side of the field, so now you essentially have bounced a monster and you have a spell or trap on your side of the field, so it's never not your turn, essentially, with Crystrons, which is the really cool thing about this deck. So let's go ahead and do another test hand. That's essentially how the deck works. Now that you guys understand it, it's a little bit weird and you kind of have to think ahead. But getting into the copy of the Golden Boy usually has to go with the copy of Impact is the big way that I usually synchro summon into him. That's the big way that I usually synchro summon into that monster. I think I just shuffled my copy of Needle Fiber into the deck. No, I shuffled Quandrax. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle this deck up again and see what we can actually get for a next test hand. As you can see, the deck is really interesting and it does a lot of different summonings, and you're pretty much only playing two Link monsters, which the only two Link monsters is Scrap Wyvern and a copy of your Needle Fiber, which is really cool to go into because you are only playing two Link 2s in the entire deck, and it's really cool to go into the Scrap combo, kind of like Orcus do. I really thought about actually mixing this deck with Orcus to see if it would pull it off. It was just throwing in some Citrates and some Selfnirs in the deck. But Selfnir has a specific effect that makes you discard, I believe, just Crystrons, because its first text says you can, if this card's in your hand or graveyard, you can discard a Crystron monster. So you kind of have to play it more in a Crystron-focused deck. So I thought about doing it, but I've kind of leaned against it. So let's go ahead and go first. Again, this deck loves to go first, I will mention to you guys. So let's see what we can actually pull off. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle. Essentially, if you draw into a Call by the Grave and a card that can send a monster from the deck to the graveyard, you are set up. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a Scrap Golem. That's not great. Ronin, Gen X Undyne, that's great. Mathematician, and a copy of Gen X Undyne. We did draw one of our copies of our bricks. So we're going to go ahead and, again, normal summon the Gen X Undyne, which is then going to send from deck to graveyard our copy of Selfnir. We do have a Gen X monster, or not a Gen X monster, but we do have a copy for Crystron in our hand, so we can go off. We're going to then add from deck to hand our copy of the Gen X controller off the copy of the Undyne. The Selfnir is then going to trigger again. We're going to discard our copy of Ronin or Rowan, and then special summon our Smyger. Selfnir will pop itself. Now you want to summon Smyger. The Smyger will then pop itself, and then, or you can even go this route, which I like to go, where you can actually pop the copy of the Turtle, which will then let you special summon a Crystron from your hand, or you can actually, by banishing it, or you can search the Smyger, and then the Smyger will then get you more plays. I like either or, it doesn't matter. It's a little bit awkward of a hand because you don't have a level 3 or level 4, level 2 or level 3 Crystron in your hand to be able to discard. You just have a tuner, so it's a little bit more awkward. So we're going to pop the copy of Smyger. And then once you pop the copy of Smyger, you can then special summon out your Citrate. And then now you essentially, with this particular hand, you're going to be able to banish the Smyger from the graveyard and then grab your copy of Impact from the deck, which is going to help out just a little bit more because you're going to be able to get your copy of Citrate back, and you're going to set that copy of Impact. Now, at this point, you have some plays. You could go ahead and Synchro Summon at this point and go for a 5, or you could just pass and go for a 7 next turn with your copy of Selfnir. It depends on what you want to do. I would probably go into my next turn and then Synchro Summon into a copy of Dawn Dragster with these 2 cards and just basically sit on the Dawn Dragster temporarily to stall out my opponent, because I can go in for more plays on the next turn. But you're essentially making a Dawn Dragster. It's a little bit weaker of a board, but it's a little bit better because you do have the copy of your Impact that you can activate during the end phase to get this back. Now, the cool thing about this is the Dawn Dragster does reduce its level, so it goes down to 5, which you do have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on your side of the field now. So you have to be constantly counting your different levels. So we're going to go into our next turn, which is turn 3. We're going to draw into an Ash Blossom, which isn't that great. It's not that helpful. But something else you do realize is you do have another Undyne in your hand. So you can normal summon out that Undyne, and you can use the Undyne effect. Or you can't use the Undyne effect, but you can link summon with them if you want to link summon with them, or you can normal summon out your copy of Mathematician, which is why I play the Mathematician in the deck over the more Gen X controllers, is because this card is usually live. At this point, you could send from your deck to your graveyard something like a Rosenix or something like that you might want to banish to get a token on your side of the field, which is going to help the deck just a little bit to be able to go for a higher level, because you do have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the token would be a 9-star, which is going to help you go for a copy of your Phoenix, which is going to help out a little bit if your opponent plays back row decks. So we're going to go ahead and use this, banish it, and then immediately get a token on our side of the field that is a level 1. You can then Synchro Summon your copy of Undyne, which is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you can Synchro Summon with these 4 monsters, and then special summon out your copy of Phoenix this time instead of going for your other monster, which is really helpful. You can also, if you want to go a little bit different of a route, instead of sending the Phoenix to the graveyard while you have these monsters on your side of the field, you can have your copies of your monsters just like this, how they were, and you can send from your deck to the graveyard a different monster, like a copy of your, I wouldn't send Selfnir to the graveyard because you don't have anything to banish. You could send from your deck to your graveyard a copy of the Purple Dragon if you want to send that one, and then you can banish that monster to add from your deck to your hand another Crystron monster, which could be your Citrate that you could normal summon the next turn. Now, with the field that you have right here, you can actually synchro for a Satellite Warrior. It will get you maybe 1 pop, but that's it. It's not terrible, but it'll get you 1 pop on your opponent's side of the field and go to 35. So you can synchro these 3 together because you have a level 5 monster, you have a 3, and you have a 2, which is right there. You have a level 10. And then you synchro these together and you immediately summon out your Satellite Warrior because it requires a synchro monster. And since you negated 1 spell or trap on your opponent's side of the field, this will go down to 5. So you have to constantly be counting your levels. So you can Synchro Summon into this, pop a card on your opponent's side of the field, and then go off. To make it really simple for the way that the deck plays, as long as you open, again, what I've been explaining throughout the entire video, as long as you open, and your ideal kind of field that you want to open up is you want to open up a copy of the Gen X Undyne, the Gen X Undyne, Mathematician, and a Recycler, one of these 3 cards. If you open up one of these 3, you can send Selfnir to the graveyard with these 2, not with the Mathematician, and then you can use the Selfnir effect to be able to special summon itself by discarding a Crystron from your hand, and then immediately go from there into a copy of Citrate, and then set your board up for your opponent. So let's go ahead and do one more quick test hand, because the deck is really fun, but it's really, to me, as somebody who plays over 200 decks, this is a very complicated deck, and it's overly complicated because of the restrictions that they place on the monsters to me, because you have to look at it and go, okay, I have to discard this specific monster, right? And I understand why, because if they didn't, this deck would be broken. So let's go ahead and cut the deck really quick and just see what we can actually pull off. So we're going to go ahead and draw into an Impact, which is great. Undyne, you're already fine. Smyger, Selfnir, and a copy of Ronin. Immediately normal summon out your copy of Undyne. Undyne is then, again, we're going to do the same thing that we did before. Undyne is going to send from deck to graveyard literally any monster you want. You could send Rosenix, you could send out you already have a Smyger in hand that you're going to be able to discard to the graveyard, and you could also use a copy of the Turtle to be able to special summon out Citrate, which I probably would do. Special summon the Turtle, Turtle goes to grave, special summon Citrate to your side of the field, and then you have the effect, or excuse me, I just skipped a step. You actually back up a little bit. You use the Sulfnir effect, or you use the copy of the Undyne to send from deck to graveyard your Sulfnir. Then you get to search from your deck your copy of Controller. Controller will then be in the hand. You use the effect of your Sulfnir in the graveyard, discard to the graveyard your copy of Smyger. Then you use the copy of Sulfnir, pop itself, special summon the Turtle, Turtle pops itself, and then you special summon out the Citrate. Now, you've locked yourself into those kind of monsters, the Synchro monsters, but you're still okay. Because at this point, you can set the impact and pass your turn. When you pass turn and enter your opponent's main phase, you can interrupt them by special summoning out the copy of the Citrate and your copy of the Turtle. You can Synchro summon out these two, and then summon out your copy of the Quandrax. And then once you summon out Quandrax, you can activate the impact, and when you flip the impact, you have the basic combo, where you have Turtle in grave, Citrate on field, level 3 monster, and then you have this particular setup where you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, synchro these together because it requires 2 tuners, and then go directly for, again, the Golden Boy, which is the big monster that you're going to banish 3 monsters on your opponent's side of the field and interrupt them, which is going to help out quite a lot. You draw on your next turn, you have the Controller, you have the Call by the Grave, and you can almost summon out your Rowan and be able to go off from there, because if you pass, you're going to be able to special summon back this, and then during your opponent's turn, and then Synchro summon for your level 5 during your opponent's turn, which is going to switch all their monsters to defense position. So it also interrupts them again. So that's basically it for the test hands. Basically simplify the deck. Again, big combo is opening up Undyne and opening up either Sulfnir or sending Sulfnir from deck to graveyard to be able to climb from there. Like, you want to go from here and end on a board with a set, at least a set impact, having the Gen X Undyne and having the copy of Citrate on your field and having at least the Turtle in the graveyard, because then you can Synchro summon into the copy of Golden Boy, and you're thinking, again, 2 Synchro summons ahead by having these on the field and special summoning this back from grave. Essentially, I know it's very complicated and very convoluted, but it's a very complicated deck to me, and it's very, very fun to play around with because there's a lot of different ways, and it's a lot of counting. You have to count when you're playing this deck. So that's something to keep in mind. And it's very budget. This deck is very, very budget to play around with. It's pretty cheap, and it's really interesting. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad. And definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. Definitely check out the deck profile down in the description below and tell me what you think of this deck. And don't forget to check out that Patreon down in the description because we have some awesome rewards for you guys. And we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.